Tonight, we're digging into several new laws in our state. More than 200 laws took effect today after being passed by the Oklahoma legislature this past session. As
Fox 25's Peyton May reports, these new measures bring changes for everything from agency procedures to your daily activities.
Many of the around 200 laws that go into effect today have to do with education. House Bill 1397, a highly contested bill, directs the State Department of Ed to develop curriculum on the civil rights movement and MLK Jr. House Bill 1634 has to do with safety in schools, allowing administration to remove a student's shoes, hat, and gloves to search them for weapons or drugs, but removing religious head coverings isn't allowed. Prioritizing safety carries over in a handful of other bills, now law. Senate Bill 661 creates a fund used to educate people about human trafficking and aims to improve resources for law enforcement agencies working to prevent those crimes. House Bill 1546 directs the Department of Corrections to develop an orange alert to notify residents within a 40-mile radius of a facility when a prisoner has escaped. Senate Bill 212, also aimed at reducing crime, clarifies that those who aren't citizens of the U.S. can't own land in Oklahoma aside from certain exceptions. When that law passed, it was geared towards cracking down on illegal grow operations. There's also a strong push to prevent drug overdoses. 3 different bills allow for opioid antagonists to be sold by pharmacies without a prescription, given out by hospitals, and to discharged inmates who have diagnosed opioid use disorders or have overdosed. A bill that might become very relevant as some Oklahomans push for the first religious charter school in the nation is Senate Bill 404, which deems it a, quote, substantial burden to exclude government funds from an entity based solely on religion. For Fox 25 News, I'm Peyton May.
So let's take a look at some of the other new laws now in effect. A new vehicle registration means you're able to renew your vehicle registration every 2 years instead of each year. The registration fee will cover the cost of 2 years, and you can still opt to register yearly. And some teens as young as 14 years old can now drive to school. House Bill 1962 went into effect today, allowing teens who live or work on a farm to get a special driver's permit to drive either to work, home, or school.
The fines for violators of the state slow down, move over laws increased today. For a first-time offense, the fine is now $1,000, and for additional offenses, the fine jumps to $2,500.
This law is strictly designed to catch your attention. We want everybody working along the sides of our highways to be able to do their job, come home safely. Everybody deserves the right to have a safe work environment. Our first responders and tow truck operators go through enough safety hazards in the line of duty. They do not need to have people driving alongside the highways not paying attention cause them greater harm.
Slow down, move over laws serve as an important protection for law enforcement and other crews working on the side of the road.
And state employees are now eligible to receive maternity leave. Full-time employees who have worked for the state for more than 2 years can request up to 6 weeks of paid maternity leave. The legislature also approved 6 weeks of paid maternity leave for teachers who have worked for a public school district for at least 1 year. Another new law is protecting restaurants and school cafeterias from the threat of civil lawsuits for donating prepared food. Now they can only be sued for negligently or willfully donating spoiled food to a food pantry, homeless shelter, or other entity. Juror pay is going up for the first time in more than 2 decades. Daily pay for jurors is increasing from $20 to $50, making Oklahoma juror pay at county courthouses one of the highest in the nation.
Another law going into effect today, House Bill 1077, or the KC Alert System. The Department of Public Safety developed a statewide alert system for missing adults between ages 18 and 59 who appear to have been abducted. An initiation ceremony was held today to commemorate the alert going into effect. The system, named after Cherokee Nation citizen Casey Russell, who went missing in 2016 while walking home from a casino, but no investigation was made into his disappearance for weeks. State Representative and Cherokee citizen Ken Luttrell spoke about the importance of this law going into effect.
We found that there was such a disconnect between law enforcement agencies, whether it was county sheriff, city police, tribal relations. There was really no cooperation if an adult went missing. And we're looking at this to be a model for the rest of the country and other states that have this problem, and recognizing the missing adult problem You know, it's not just children, it's not just the elderly, but having an alert system to get the word out there quicker, a quicker response, and bring some closure and satisfaction to those families that this occurs to.
The state already issues silver alerts for missing adults aged 60 or older and amber alerts for missing children. Several families of missing Indigenous people spoke at today's ceremony, and an honor song was played for them.
And another new law making sure 911 operators can give CPR instructions to callers until medical help arrives. Operators are now required to complete a telecommunicator CPR training course by July 1st of 2024. Supporters say the new law will give 911 operators the ability to not only learn life-saving techniques, but also teach them to others in dire situations.
We're going to hear stories about how someone's life was saved because the 911 operator talked someone through on how to give CPR. That's the primary goal for the American Heart Association with HB 1590.
The law is also designed to upgrade Oklahoma's 911 call system as a whole.
Well, new laws impacting the medical marijuana industry also taking effect today.
Yeah, this is we're seeing a steep decline in the number of licensed growers in our state. Fox 25's Tom Ferguson joining us live now from the Capitol. So Tom, tell us about what changed starting today.
Well, Adam and Wendy, one new change from lawmakers is that a pause on new licenses going out got extended from August 2024 to August 2026. We also got the latest on efforts to crack down on illegal marijuana activity in Oklahoma.
This is about protecting, the industry itself as well as making sure criminals don't get a foothold here.
Mark Woodward with the State Bureau of Narcotics says investigators have had to shut down hundreds of illegal grows since medical marijuana came to Oklahoma. As of midnight, October 31st, operating licenses were due for renewal. As officials have been tracking down illegal activity, many decided not to renew.
We have had this past year close to 3,000 of those farms under investigation. And as a result, the majority of those farms, as of this week, when they had to apply and renew their licenses, did not renew.
2.5 years ago, Oklahoma had a peak of about 9,400 growers. That dropped to about 6,400 last year. As of November 1st, there were less than 3,800 with a license. Woodward says criminal organizations who set up shop to grow product for the black market have been abandoning their facilities.
Some of the biggest issues that we're dealing with here in Oklahoma over the last 3 years have been these criminal organizations that come here.
HB 2095 passed earlier this year and included numerous reforms to address issues in Oklahoma's medical marijuana industry. It gave OBN, the State Bureau of Investigation, and the State Attorney General's Office investigation and enforcement power alongside the Medical Marijuana Authority. Additionally, growers knowingly employing undocumented immigrants can face up to a year in jail and/or a $500 fine and lose their license.
If there is a single plant still growing on a place that did not renew their license, they're going to be arrested for cultivation.
And OBN says investigators are shutting down 1 to 2 illegal grow operations here every single day. Live at the Capitol, Tom Ferguson, Fox 25 News.
Thank you, Tom. Now, it's pretty difficult for a bill to become a law. Start off with thousands this session, but only about 200 made it across that finish line. We're going to take a closer look at what goes into this process. So you got to think about this like Schoolhouse Rock, but we're going to put a little Oklahoma style to it. So that session begins in February and May. State lawmakers, they spend a lot of time leading up to session studying, learning more about things they want to write a bill for. But you get into an issue here because a lot of this research time just goes down the drain. About 20% of legislative proposals actually become a law. Now, some bills, they become law on the first day of November like we saw today, but others get passed with an emergency attached to the item. So when they're signed by the governor, they're just made into a law. That's how this goes. Now, the deadline to introduce a bill, usually the week before session begins, typically around late January. And we get about 2,500 to 3,000 bills introduced every single session, and those bills have 4 weeks to be considered in their respective chambers committees. But if a bill leaves the committee, it's going to go to a floor vote. Now, that deadline to pass off the floor is 2 weeks later, the 6th week of the legislative session. But less than 50% of bills even make it to the opposite chambers. You can start to see how we really start to whittle things down here. And if a bill is fortunate to get to the other side, well, we got another round of deadlines. Kind of hits the reset button and takes us back to start. You got another set of 4 and 2. Committees for the opposite chamber have 4 weeks to pass a bill and 2 weeks after that to pass off the floor. Now, in that second set of 4 weeks and 2 weeks, their bills can be amended. That means they can essentially be changed or have other things added to them. And if that happens, the bill has to be voted on again in their chamber of origins. We just keep passing that ball back and forth here. Now, if bills are not amended throughout that process, they will go directly to the governor.
Well, as several new laws take effect, lawmakers are also taking a look at accountability in local governments. A hearing was held at the state capitol today. Fox 25's Grant Palmer tells us it focused on stories of injustices, as well as demands for law enforcement and local governments to be held accountable.
These people have had their grandchild taken. They can't get a hearing to determine whether they can get the grandchild back. And I'm saying, let the state of Oklahoma bring the evidence. Otherwise, you have taken these people's child without probable cause.
During Wednesday afternoon's hearing, stories of injustice were told. Representative J.J. Humphrey sharing the story of Bill and Lisa Woolley, who he says went through a vicious cycle of being arrested on charges, being let go, then being arrested on new charges related to the death of their baby grandson, Elijah.
They were arrested, put in jail for 4 months, and it was dismissed for lack of evidence. They were arrested again, put in jail for 4 months, dismissed. When it's dismissed for lack of evidence, that means they got a poor case.
Former Wagner County Judge Dennis Shook was also at the hearing, speaking about lack of evidence throughout the Wooley's case.
I read through the affidavit. Well, there was really no evidence set forth in the search warrant affidavit that a crime had been committed.
That was Grant Palmer reporting, and that was your big story breakdown tonight. You can find out more about the new laws that are now in effect in Oklahoma on OKCFox.com.
And if you missed any part of the big story breakdown, you find it all on our YouTube channel. Scan the QR code on your screen or search OKC Fox.